Well, good morning, everybody. Just before we get this underway, they asked me to play a song. I'm going to play a song that Roger told me that it was one of his favorite songs. Just before I do the song, before I forget too, I was asked to tell folks the bathrooms are in the trailer back here, and you can get through the fence over here to my right. You can go through the fence into the bathrooms in the kitchen, use the bathrooms in the kitchen.
Only if you have to go.
Amarillo by morning, up from San Antonio. Everything that I got is just what I got on. When the sun's high in that Texas sky, I'll be looking at the county fair. Amarillo by morning, Amarillo, I love being there. They took my saddle in Houston, broke my leg in Santa Fe. Lost my wife and a girlfriend somewhere along the way. Well, I'll be looking for Rick when they close that gate, and I hope the judge ain't lying. Amarillo by morning, Amarillo's on my mind. Amarillo by morning, up from San Antonio. Everything that I got is just what I got on. Oh, I ain't got a dime, but what I got is mine. I ain't rich, Lord, I'm free. Amarillo by morning, Amarillo's where I'll be. Amarillo by morning, Amarillo's where I'll be.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Judy Loiselle, and I'm honored to welcome all of you here on behalf of Joyce and the family. We will have an open mic after the eulogy and would certainly love to hear some of your memories and good times you had with Roger. The last few years, I would watch Roger as he sat in his chair. He would look down at his hands and he'd massage them and those long fingers. And I assume he was thinking, man, if these hands could talk. I'm now going to ask Cassie to come up and share a story about Grandpa's hands. Is it a story? Okay.
So, Grandpa's hands. Stop and think for a moment about the hands you have and how they've served you well throughout your years. These hands, though wrinkled and shriveled and weak, have been the tools I have used all my life to reach out, grab, and embrace life. They braced and caught my fall when I was a toddler. I crashed upon the floor. They put food in my mouth and clothes on my back. As a child, my mother taught me to fold them in prayer. They tied my shoes and pulled on my boots. They have been dirty, scraped and raw, swollen and bent. They were uneasy, clumsy when I tried to hold my newborn son. Decorated with my wedding band, they showed the world that I was married and loved someone special. They have held children, consoled neighbors, and shook in fists of anger when I didn't understand. They have covered my face, combed my hair, and washed and cleansed the rest of my body. They have been sticky and wet, bent and broken, dried and raw. And to this day, when not much of anything else of me works real well, these hands hold me up, lay me down, and again continue to fold in prayer. These hands are the mark of where I've been and the ruggedness of my life. But more importantly, it will be these hands that God will reach out and take when he leads me home.
Thanks, Cass. Good job, Cass. It's never easy. Okay, Now, we're going to make this quite quick because it's not very nice out. So I'm going to do the eulogy for Roger. Joseph Roger Loiselle was born on November 25th, 1930 in McLennan, Alberta. To Napoleon and Anna Loiselle, Roger was the youngest of 10 children. In 1937, the family moved to Dawson Creek from Donnelly, Alberta, and bought land just west of town. At a young age, he started driving up the Alaska Highway for Loiselle Transport. He spent time up north working at moccasin mines and a few months on the Kamloops pipeline. He was a heavy-duty mechanic in later years. He ran the shop and finally retiring from Gear-Rama. In 1954, he met a pretty blue-eyed Norwegian girl from La Glace. I'm sure it started on the dance floor, and dancing continued for over 60 years. Man, he was a smooth dancer and was generally one of the last ones to leave the hall. When Roger could no longer dance, he loved to sit and listen to his favorite music, tapping his foot with that little smile on his face. Roger and Joyce were married June 16, 1956, and had three children, Shane, Lance, and Sherry. They lived in town a short time and then moved to the acreage on the Alaska Highway. About 1971, they purchased property on Riesbeck Road and ranched there until his failing health was upon him, and he moved to the Rotary Manor. Roger loved horses and broke several of the critters. He was involved with the Rope and Saddle Club for many, many years. He was a great rodeo supporter, plus attended finals in Oklahoma, Las Vegas, Fort Worth, Edmonton, and of course, attended all the local rodeos in the area. Roger and Joyce loved to travel and visit numerous places, including Cuba, Hawaii, Nashville, and lots of trips to Texas to see the kids. They also took many road trips to music festivals, country fairs, and plowing matches. After Roger quit driving, all I had to do was call him up and ask if they'd like to do a country drive. All he said was, "We'll be ready." Roger enjoyed watching the kids participate in their sporting activities. He was very proud of all of them. After Roger retired, he spent time enjoying friends and socializing at the local co-op, McDonald's, and of course the auction mart. Now I'm going to share the memories from Shane, Lance, and Sherry. Shane remembers many branding days and taking the cows to the pasture. There were some hot and dusty rides and wet rides as well. Dad was always organized, ready for the event, well in advance. If he said, "We will start the day at 8 a.m., he was out there sorting cows at 6 a.m. Janet was happy when she started making lefts and that it passed Roger's approval. Cassie and Cody have fond memories of Grandpa sitting around the kitchen table, playing card games, checking the cows, and sitting in the tractor to feed. Cody said Grandpa would always ask, "What do you figure?" Cassie will always cherish the day she graduated from high school and Grandpa saved the day, stepped in for her father-daughter dance as Shane Bax had let him down. Lance remembers being interested in mechanics, starting out taking apart alarm clocks, then starters in some of the trucks. Having done lots of projects, he said, some have turned out so good and some not so good. I learned a lot from Dad, but I still have a few more jobs to tackle. The Loiselle tradition is alive and well here in Texas. We're always the last to leave any good event or good party. Lane and Logan also have many fond memories of Grandpa. Lane remembers when they were listening to the Kenny Chesney concert at the Houston Rodeo and they got a good laugh by watching the girls yell at Kenny from the third tier, like he could hear them. Lane would look at Grandpa and they'd both just shake their heads. Logan's memory was when Pops, that's what he called him, hooked up the sleigh and horses to chop down a Christmas tree in the snow. In the summertime, Grandpa was always ready to put out the yard games for them to play. The Loiselle blood runs deep in Texas, as great-grandson Leighton already knows all his tools and loves to fix. Sherry's memories, riding the Bear Mountain pasture with Dad checking cows. We spent a lot of days riding together down on the section also. Dad was an extremely hard worker. He could do almost anything, carpentry, mechanicking, plumbing, electrical, building anything from scratch to finish. He built the houses we lived in, along with the garages, barns, and a horse walker. Very rarely did he hire anything done, a jack of all trades, and he did all the jobs to perfection. Dad loved farm life, cows, horses, and farming, anything to do with the horses. Rayleigh inherited the love of music from her papa, Roger. He always loved to dance and was always the last to go home. Roger leaves to mourn his wife, Joyce, of 65 years. They just celebrated a month ago, and I think you went and bought Edo, and they had a nice dinner together. Shane, Janet, Lance, Dina, Sherry, Ron, grandchildren, Cassie, Colin, Cody, Anissa, Lane, Logan, Alex, and Rayleigh. Great-grandchildren, Leighton Loiselle and Caden Black. I'm going to now call on Ernie Rootlinger. He's going to come up and say a few words.
Hi, Roger. What can we say about Roger? Good friend, good man, hardworking, and all these vacations they were mentioning, we were with him. We were there with Roger and Joyce, and he was always a lot of fun. I remember having parties at their house. They had a big fire going there one night, and we were playing music, playing guitars and singing and whatever, and Steve Landiak wanted to go somewhere to the house for something or another. And Roger says, hell, I'll take you in my wheelbarrow. So Steve climbs in his wheelbarrow, and there he goes, running through the yard with Steve in the wheelbarrow, which was very, very funny, I thought. But anyway, they were having a good time. We had lots of good times, lots of fun, and we'll remember the good times. He's been taken from us, but he'll always be in our hearts. And we will remember him forever, no doubt about it. Many of us will. We've had lots of good times with him, and rest in peace, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you, Ernie. And now, Roger's brother-in-law, Larry Loiselle, would like to come up and say a few words. Oh, maybe it's Daphne. Daphne?
I'm Heather.
Heather. Yeah. Heather's going to read it.
Hi. My dad's not feeling well today, so I said I would read his little speech. We got a call last night in the hotel room from my Aunt Joyce and said, would your dad mind saying a few words about Roger? And he says, of course I will. So I just have to amend the page because it's written in his words. So just to introduce myself, I'm Heather, and Auntie Joyce is my godmother. So I guess that makes Uncle Roger my godfather. Dad was saying that he gave a few words at the 50th anniversary. And so he said, so Joyce knows I'm an easy touch to, when there's something to say, Dad'll write it out. When Sherry let me know that Uncle Roger had passed away, I thought I would quickly send a quick text to my brother and sister and younger brother who are all across Canada. And Daphne, my sister, said that she's going to remember Uncle Roger as the complete and dignified cowboy. His walk, his deep voice, and his many talents, and most of all, the quiet yet perfect husband, father, grandfather, and grandfather, great-grandfather, and a friend to everyone he met, a true cowboy. My brother Steve said, I'm always going to remember that voice. Such a deep voice. And we're city kids, like we'd never heard a cowboy voice before. So when Uncle Roger came to visit, that was pretty special. He'd sit in that rocking chair near the window, hands on his belt buckle, just rocking back and forth, and it's like, yeah, that's a cowboy. We're here. And Daryl said the same thing. My younger brother said he was always such a kind and gentle man. And that voice, ... I was like, I know. In his early years, he participated in rodeo and was a lifelong rodeo fan. So for many years, he and my Auntie Joyce came to Edmonton for the Canadian Finals Rodeo. You always knew you had a place to stay, and you always will, in the Blue House. The family name Loiselle is a Dawson Creek legend, and I guess down in Texas it is too. Roger would not want any of you to be sad today. So grieve for him. But we can all say, So long, cowboy. We won't forget you. Thanks.
Thanks, Heather. And now Connie Patterson. She's going to come up and share a few memories of Roger.
My daughter asked me, Mom, where are your notes? And I told her I didn't have any. I was just going to speak off, but I really do have notes, Shantae. I just didn't want to tell you I did. That was my little secret. So first of all, I want to welcome you. I'm so excited to see so many people, Joyce, that have come in this cold weather. I mean, how perfect is that? And Roger would have been thrilled. I just know that. I mean, Roger was so much part of this fairgrounds, part of our stampede, and he was, he's just been with us forever, it seems like, since I was a little kid. And I remember I used to have my 4-H, I had my 4-H steer. He was here when I was crying outside, and I had to go take the steer in to let Miller Patterson sell it, and I hated that man because he told me to shut up. He said, grow up and shut up, he said. And Roger was there, and he put his arms around me, and I was so ever thankful for that. Anyway, when I first really remember meeting Roger was at Grandma and Grandpa Loiselle's. And I was with my mom and dad, and Dad had hired Roger to work for Grant Brothers Logging, which was my dad and his brother Stu that ran Grant Brothers Logging for something like 50 years. Anyway, I was thrilled with knowing Roger, and I think I was 5, and I said, Roger, will you wait till I grow up so I can marry you? And he said something very kindly, I can't remember quite what it was, but he basically told me I'd be looking for somebody else, he thought, when I got to be old enough. So, and I did, I found Leonard, so how lucky was that? Anyway, his older brother Paul and wife Betty were great friends with my parents, and they stood up for one another when each got married. And so I just think that the Loiselle family and our family were always part of one another, and we always will be. Joyce, for you and the kids and for everybody. And Roger met his wife Joyce, and of course she was the love of his life. There was nobody but Joyce for Roger, that was for sure. They made their home in Dawson Creek and raised a wonderful family. All of them, all of you are just great people. And always sharing their home with friends. And they had great friendship with many parties and get-togethers, from birthdays to New Year's celebrations. And their kids were all the same ages as this one group that they had together, which was Jim and Agnes Patterson, Bill and Phyllis Finn, Bert and Mavis Homey, and the Nair Guards. And so we got invited to a few of those special nights with them. A lot of drinking, I think, went on, if I remember right. And I can remember we used to end up singing at the end, somewhere along the line. I somehow remember I didn't have the drums, so I had a big pot turned upside down, and those were Roger said, go get that, that's the drums. So, and Roger was part of the Dawson Creek Roam Saddle Club for many years. The club put on the rodeo as part of the Dawson Creek exhibition. He worked tirelessly with the rodeo and infield grounds. He was a great champion for the event. At that time, we were an amateur rodeo, and in later years turned pro, which we are still today. Turning from an amateur to a pro rodeo caused quite a kerfuffle within our town and our whole area. We had 1,250 entries at the time and went down to 275. But the quality of the performance made us one of the top rodeos in the pro rodeo circuit today, and that's part because of Roger. We are one of 8 tour rodeos in Canada, the last tour rodeo before our tour finals in Armstrong, and we're dual sanctioned between the U.S. with the U.S. Cowboys as well as the Canadian. Roger was also a cattleman who raised Charlie Cross cattle. Some of the best calves would come to the auction market for sale in the fall. He took great pride in his horses and his cattle. Always hosted a branding in the spring that was looked forward to by many cowboys and cowgirls to attend. Best was the food Joyce would produce. And for the event, Joyce had the best food of any branding, I'm sure, in the area that was come from Joyce. Joyce worked for Patterson's Auction Barn in our office for many years, issuing the ranchers checks for their cattle sale. We had our own language there for some touchy things at the auction market. One of the letters was NFG. Joyce knew what that meant, so there was an animal, it was only an animal that was good enough for slaughter and making the trip to the kill plant to Edmonton. Sometimes they never made the truck. And the explanation on our scale ticket had its weight, sex, and the color, and plus a brief description of why we couldn't get a price from the buyers for the animal. NFG was the letters we used for those subject cattle. One fellow came back to the office and asked Joyce what NFG meant on his pay slip. I hit for the back office. Joyce, in her kindest manner, quickly answered, "Oh, that means not feeling good." So, and the animal will go directly for slaughter for pound kill. But anyway, the other two girls in the office, they quickly ducked their heads because the man was not known to be a kindly person. And they were sure he would kick up a fuss. No, he thanked Joyce and said, "That will be fine." Only Joyce could have got away with that. That is for sure. I'd like to say on behalf of my family, the Grants and the Pattersons, it has been a pleasure to have Joyce and Roger as our friends, worker, client over the years. One could always count on them for their kindness, good advice, and friendship. So I say to Roger, wherever you are, may it be an easy ride and you hopefully have a good horse. Thank you so much, and thank you so much for coming here today for Joyce and the kids. So just absolutely special. This beer garden has become quite a place, not just for weddings, but we now have had a funeral. Thanks again.
Thanks, Connie. Okay, now I think we should just all bow our heads and say the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as he forgive us for trespass against us. Lead us not to temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. I'm going to conclude this little service, and then we're all going to have a little bit of visiting and beef on a bun. But the end is, well, Roger, we all know you're riding into the sunset, high in the saddle on your favorite horse, King. Have a good one. Where's the beef on the bun? Okay, Gary, let's have some music while we're waiting for some beef on the bun. Thanks. I forgot about the open mic. Anyone else like to get up here and say a few words about Roger? Oh, they're lined up. Just wait, take your turn. I think maybe all the nice things have been said about Roger that we can think of. Okay?
This next song was another favorite song that Roger had. I played quite a bit up at the seniors, Rotary Manor, and Roger and Joyce, they came to every time I played there. They were there. And I played this one song, and after it was over, after I got done playing there, Roger came up to me and he said, "By gosh, you marked that down as one of my favorites too." So Roger, this one's for you. The only two things in life make it worth living are guitars tuned good and firm, feeling women. I don't need my name in the marquee lights. I got my song and I got you with me tonight. Maybe it's time we got back to the basics of love. Let's go to Lincoln, Texas, Willie, Willie, and the boys. The successful life for living's got us feeling like the Hatfield and the boys. Between Franklin's main song, Blueberry's train songs, and Levi's crying in the rain. Out in Lincoln, Texas, ain't nobody feeling no pain. So baby, let's sell your diamond ring, buy some boots and faded jeans, and go away. This broken tie's choking me, your high society will ride all day. We've been so busy keeping up with the Jones, four-car garage and we're still building on. Maybe it's time we got back to the basics of love. Let's go to Lincoln, Texas, with Willie, Willie, and the boys. The successful life for living's got us feeling like the Hatfield and the boys. Between Franklin's train songs, Blueberry's train songs, and blue eyes crying in the rain. Out in Lincoln, Texas, ain't nobody feeling no pain. Let's go to Lincoln, Texas, with Willie and Willie. then this next song, I would catch Roger tapping his foot up there at Rotary Manor. I did it for the old folks up there, and I'd look at Roger, he'd be sitting there tapping his foot, so I knew he kind of liked this song too. We gotta go pull the barrel down the fire. I want sweetest one, me oh my. Son of a gun, we're gonna have big fun on the bayou. Jambalaya, crawfish pie, and a peanut gumbo. For tonight I'm gonna see my shadow wheel. Picnic car, different jar, and Miguel. Son of a gun, we're gonna have big fun on the bayou. Settle down, Harper Town, get your hair on, and I'll pitch old fish in the fire. Slide my love by your phone, what you need. Son of a gun, we're gonna have big fun on the bayou. Jambalaya, crawfish pie, big gone. For tonight I'm gonna see my Michelle. Picking our favorite jar and Miguel. Son of a gun, we're gonna have big fun on the bayou. Give a dope, I know the place is buzzing. Get folks come see on by the dozen. Dressings like go up wild, me oh my. Son of a gun, we're gonna have big fun on the bayou. Jambalaya, crawfish pie, big gumbo. For tonight I'm gonna see my shadow nail. Big guitar, different jar. Son of a gun, we're gonna have big fun on the bayou. Son of a gun, we're gonna have big fun on the bayou.
And some of the peas. But the hay was there. Yep. Bob said they made 7 round bases. So you traveling for hockey anymore? You just staying close to home?
I did this.
Did ya? You go watch midgets play or bantams or? Okay. Wow. I really question it. I feel for the NHL team's going to try drafting. I mean, it's going to be just roll the dice. I mean, I think that's why there's been a lot of trades, a lot of free agency moves and stuff. I think they just have no idea what's coming out of this. I think a few more kids are going to come out of Europe because they played more there. Like I don't know, like poor Mark and Oakland, I don't know where they're going to end up. I'm worried about them. Like I think he could be, and I truly believe like the boys, like Trina's boys and my son. I think there's a good chance he's going to end up in the American Hockey League.
They're all Leroy.
The bull and son of a gun. Since you left me the whiskey, kiss to the road. Hear the cowboys sing I'm hanging out, and the rodeo clown. I could ride along the rolling
Come down the hill, quarter mile from where you farm there. They were a little scared of that one. Never get hit.
Folks, I've been asked to announce you can go in the back there and grab yourself something to eat, and there is coffee up front here. So help yourself to coffee, and the beef on the bun, I think it is, it's in the back there, so help yourself.
Which way? I think the playoffs will work. You know, you look at the way the playoffs are played. You gotta have some great big moments. It sucks. What can you do? I mean, just need to take the next step tougher. Last year and then again this year. Going backwards. They have scary. They're number 3 or 5 defense. Wow. They're not starting to.
Cup of coffee with bourbon, Appalachian sticks to go. I'm coming through the riding sideways. He's empty minded. They just say that's how the cowboy treats a young man's home. That's how my whole world feels the cold and east end. If I was there, he didn't even start. That's how the cowboy takes a she said she saw